told you that someone had lied, my friend. Hey neighbor, today I went for a walk. Remember when we used to talk, my friend? Hey neighbor, I told you my dad was sick. He put a flame to the wick, my friend. Hey neighbor, thanks for taking my call. Thanks for catching my fall, my friend. Hey neighbor, thanks for turning it down. Thanks for changing my frown, my friend. Hey neighbor, if you're watching this, probably following along with some of the story that's been told in one way or another on this channel, maybe on other people's channels. You're seeing a lot of open discussion. You know, I'm in Texas, so there's like open carry and concealed carry and all these different things going on. But what I'm trying to have, and my weapon of choice, is communication. And communication oftentimes involves truth. It should involve truth all the time, but it only involves it oftentimes because in the era of our fathers, we were taught to only talk about pleasant things. And our mothers have often repeated that same sentiment, saying, we can only talk about pleasant things. We've gotten to a point where discussing things has become disgusting to some people, and it becomes challenging to other people who are no longer allowed to participate because their light is too honest. Their light is too earnest, you know, and some of those channels that are out on, for an example, YouTube, are channels where people talk about chosen ones and, you know, different segments of religion who are able to see and quantify things in ways that are often still one-sided. And they're one-sided in a way where people basically cultivate that one-sidedness by that one-sidedness, however you want to say it. They cultivate that type of mannerism by shunning someone who they claim is different. The fact is, we're all different, and we all have unique perspectives, and all of our upbringings are just relevant enough to where if we feel moved to contribute our insight, we should. Now, to be able to contribute our insight, generally we have to be allowed to comment in those places where our conversations would be beneficial. So in my neck of the woods, I'd been voicing some concerns about some things that were going on and causing some of us varying amounts of loss of sleep, which translated directly into loss of health, loss of income, and loss of almost sanity. For me, thankfully, I'm able to continuously express myself in ways that have brought to the center of attention the topic that was necessary to be addressed. And that has allowed me to communicate with the people who have the ability to correct these circumstances. And in most cases, I've been met with compassionate people. And in fact, I wrote a note on here, Erring on the Side of Courtesy is the name of that song that I guess, penned electronically just a few minutes before I played it through right here for you, for whoever that viewer might be. And I know that I have a very limited subset of friends on this platform. I have several different entry points as far as communicating with the general public, but I tend to not try to publicize myself as even having an account such as this, because basically when I did have an account with this platform, an account on this platform way back in the day, it became the same kind of thing where you would join a group and then the moderators would basically quiet selectively the people who were bringing a unique perspective to the table. So because of that, I basically went ahead and just focused on one platform where I grew my subscribership to a point where I know that people are paying attention to what I'm saying. And right now I'm just trying to refine, maybe it's the way I'm saying things that is not being received as graciously as I'm receiving insights from you. And at the same time, I've also been called names. I've been told, this is a preceding entry point of how people normally address me. As I told you before, as I told you many times before, or some other variant of that. And then basically it's a dismissive comment that pretty much negates any kind of participation from the person who's leveraging that tactic on me. Now, on these platforms that I talk about, like YouTube, where you watch people talking about chosen ones and spirituality and all that, a lot of people who negate other people's thoughts are oftentimes called narcissists. Now, that word is just a term, and that terminology is something that applies to all of us, even my own self. If I have a blind spot and I'm not able to see your perspective, especially if I don't have the empathy to look at something through your perspective, then I'm never going to have the genuine acknowledgement that it takes to fully apologize to someone like you. And by someone like you, I mean, we know who my general viewer is, but this is set to public. So anyone in the world can see this right now. And however you're coming across, I might not be able to understand it or receive it. And at the same time, I believe I'm able to discern when someone outright types my name as rat and goes on to say, as I told you before, or I'm not dismissing you, or something like that. And if you look at my primary channel, which I might link at some point, but you can find it if you scroll through my other posts here. If you go through my primary channel, you'll see where my own father, when I tell him, Dad, you're making me feel bad, he literally tells me, as a gaslighting technique, he says, I'm not making you feel bad, and he yells it at me while I'm basically talking to him calmly. So I feel like in a lot of cases when people have disrespected me, I have not felt the need to return in kind the same kind of name calling or raising the voice tactic. Now, I can raise my voice in order to be heard over someone who's yelling and still address them as sir or ma'am or whatever the case may be, depending on whatever the standards are and circumstances are in these unique events that are unfolding in front of us right now. In my nation, we have an elected leader who has a lot of redacted insights about circumstances that they're involved in, who has openly talked about grabbing people by, the nether regions, and saying it in such a way that makes it feel uncomfortable to know that someone like that is running the show. Those are the moderators. Those are basically the examples of leadership that we have in the nation where I'm at. And so in kind, I'd like to return some words as a courtesy that somehow resonate in a different, more meaningful, and somewhat polite way. I believe it's entirely polite, but again, however someone receives something is entirely up to them. And I wanted to, in so doing, call out a circumstance while addressing it in the form of poetry and music and creativity and kindness and compassion and all of those things that are usually very present in people who are present and who are able to acknowledge one another in kind. So I hope that you've understood what I'm saying. I hope that this message about neighborly communication is well received. And I hope that if you're interested in hearing these kind of things, that you feel free to share or follow this person on this platform to help them along on their quest. I definitely could use some good energy, some positive vibes, some prayer if you're into that. And honestly, as long as it's coming from a place of sincerity and positivity and hope, I believe that it would be more than meaningful to me. It would actually be beneficial. With the things that I've been going through recently, and in that song that you just heard, I did say that my father was sick. He put a flame to the wick. He literally burned down the house of my grandparents. I'm an only child. He burned down the house. My dad was in rehab for a short period of time. A former mayor of a small town very close to the city that I live in kidnapped or helped coordinate a kidnapping of my father from a rehab facility. And during that whole month, while they hid my father from me, my dad, who was not in a mental capacity to do so, signed over the property that belonged to my grandparents and then to him. And again, I'm an only child. So the things that have happened to me have been frustrating and demeaning, and they're demanding in terms of time and effort that I'm able to have to put into these circumstances, if I'm able to put time and effort into these circumstances at all. And to exacerbate the things by having other people even closer to home calling me a rat and then not giving a rat's behind about how they made someone feel, well, I just hopefully explained how it made me feel. And I hopefully got you to listen to this, because the way that things like this work are generally, if someone is very self-absorbed, they want to see everything that the other person is saying so that they can try to figure out how to flip the script and control the narrative. The thing about someone that's really insightful and honest and hopeful and a bringer of light is that you cannot throw enough shade on that light to blot it out. So I hope that makes sense. Until next time, peace, love, and all that old school stuff.